do some reels. It is my one thing that I picked this year that I'm uncomfortable with is doing reels and video and all that. So that was my thing that I absolutely was determined to do this year. So I came across this young lady in Hawaii who does reels at a high level. And her name is Corinne Ling. I hope I'm saying that right. I hope I'm saying that right. She is absolutely amazing. She is high energy, and I absolutely love her reels. I had Deanna check it out and see. So we have just been enjoying it. I make it a point to do it. She does it on a consistent basis. So she truly, truly does it on a high level. So I reached out to her to see if she could teach us about reels, because I have been asking, people have been asking me about it, and I don't do my own reels. Full disclosure, I do my own reels, but I definitely want to introduce her to you guys. So she is homegrown in Honolulu, Hawaii. Her name is Karen. She stands out for her enthusiasm and passion for real estate, and for people who are looking for a career in real estate. And like I said, she is a high energy reel maker. She has dedicated herself since 2004 to serving over 300 enthusiastically happy clients. She has won the Aloha Honor Award once in 2009, and it has been downhill since then. She is the proud partner of her Google famous real estate appraisal husband, Sheldon, which they share one brilliantly smart Ridgeback Lab and co-op. She's consistently worked in the past 4 years to quit working. She's consistently worked for the past 4 years to quit working and has not been even mildly successful at that. Even though her dream job is to be retired. We all want to be like that, right? Corinne's guiding philosophy in work and in life is to bring joy to everyone she meets, whether for a second or for a lifetime. So let me introduce our gal who will teach us a little bit about home purchasing through reels, Corinne Ling.
Thank you. Thanks, Alyssa. So, well, good morning, Tucker, right? How is everybody doing this morning?
Good.
Good. Yeah, I just woke up, so I'm just kidding. But I actually did just wake up because it's 8 a.m. my time, and I know you guys are all the way on the East Coast. So hopefully you guys had some lunch or are having your lunch now, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Reels. How many of you have experience with Instagram Reels? I know not a lot of us are on the screen, but I just wanted to get a gauge, and feel free to put that in the chat. Pardon?
I just did it one time.
Oh, well, once is enough to become an expert. No. And I just wanted everybody to know, it doesn't matter how long you've been on Instagram. Thanks, Ruth. I like that people are putting that in the chat. Hopefully a lot of us are familiar with Instagram, because I have to say that I just started using Reels in August. And I, of course, like many of us, or some of us, or maybe just few of us, I've been doing Instagram for a rather long time since it came out. What's great about Instagram is they're constantly changing and copying and seeing what they can. So Instagram Reels is the answer to TikTok. How many of you are familiar with TikTok?
Yeah, everybody.
Yep. Yeah. So it's so funny because I have a friend, and she says that she just spends her evening scrolling through TikTok. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even know this was a thing. And there are a whole bunch of people in the United States and all over the world that use TikTok. So it's probably the most used social media across the world. But we're talking about Instagram Reels, which is, again, Facebook, Meta's, Instagram's answer to TikTok. And for those of you who aren't familiar with either, it's basically something like a 7 to 15 second clip for the most part. Usually some of these lip syncing or saying something, and then people just tend to like it and watch it. And the more views or engagement that you have in Reels, the more people are engaged and staying on, and then you get more views. And Instagram and or TikTok will push it out to the people through their Explore page on Instagram and the For You page on TikTok. So let's get started. So that you can see these are some of my Instagram posts and Reels as well. Oh, good. I'm glad somebody's already making them. So whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, you may want to consider stealing the spotlight with Reels. And so in order to do that, you need to assess where your account is. So I don't know how many followers everybody has, and feel free if you feel brave enough to put how many followers you have in the chat. I started off with around 5,750, and this was like not really doing too much. I just post in stories. How many of you love stories? I love stories because it gives that behind the scenes look into your life, and then Reels takes it to that next level. So at about 5,750, and that's because I was district director for Toastmasters for the state of Hawaii. So I ran all of Toastmasters. If you're familiar with that organization, it's a communication and leadership organization. And then I also was on a TV show called Hawaii Life for a couple of episodes. And so I guess I got a few followers from that. And then I was born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii, where I actually went to private and public school at different points of time in my life, and I graduated from the University of Hawaii. So of course you're gonna, meet people and have a variety of network through that. And then there's realtors. All of us know all of our market realtors, right? Because that's how we connect. That's how we're able to get our offers accepted sometimes. So you want to assess where your account is at, and also take a look at who's watching your posts and your stories. So in my case, when I looked at it, it was split around 50-50 between men and women, which I think is good. I wanted a little bit more women just because that's sort of my go-to, I love my girlfriends kind of thing. And so you just assess your account where it's at. And then when you analyze and assess the situation, you can go further. So you want to figure out what you want to achieve. All of you are realtors. So I guess we always have our goals of where we want to go. What is this small little goal that we want to achieve? And so for me, my mission in life is to bring joy to everyone I meet, whether for a second or for a lifetime. So that's my mission. And of course, I wanted to find out, what do I want to achieve through Reels that's in line with this mission. So if you don't have a mission, I would for your life, I would definitely highly recommend that. I've lived by it probably since I was in college. Can you imagine an 18-year-old me coming up with a mission in life? But I've had that mission ever since. And so what I wanted to achieve through Reels, I thought about who I wanted to serve. And ironically, it's you. I want to serve the everyday realtor because not all of us know how to maneuver through social media to gain followers, to gain traction, to gain engagement. And I wanted to help realtors with social media through their business. Now, I've learned, I know this about myself, that I never aspire to be a coach. You won't be seeing me being a MAPS coach. However, I do love to teach. I have a history of professors in my family. Actually, my cousin made the news. She's being discriminated against, Asian, mixed race, professor at the Naval Academy. She's in the Washington Post, and they aren't giving her tenure after 2 years of applying, and no woman has gotten it in the last 2 years. So it's like that's what she's been doing. So she's the professor there. Her twin sister is a professor in West Virginia, and then I have another cousin who right now he's the historian for the city of Alexandria in Virginia. So, but he also has his doctorate. He was planning to teach, and I just have a lot of teachers in my family is a point I wanted to make. And so I love teaching. So it goes with, my mission in life. And then, of course, as a byproduct, when you're teaching how to do Reels or anything, you want to also show people how to do that. And so I make Reels on real estate. So that was my goal, and that's what I wanted to achieve through Reels. So then you want to challenge yourself, because what's a goal without a challenge, right? It's just a dream. So challenge yourself and make a goal. So I'm very results driven. I think most of us, I don't want to assume, but I feel like if you're a realtor, you're pretty results driven. Am I correct in that? pretty results driven, right? And so you want to challenge yourself. Now, I don't know if you're like me. I tend to put everyone before myself. So if it's a client, it's like, okay, I got to take care of this. I put in a counter offer last night on my listing for a person who had put an offer, and the one that we chose out of the multiple offer situation. And then I still wanted to wake up early enough to make it on time and get ready for all of you. So I challenged myself to do, so in July, I thought, okay, August is coming up. August 1st is probably the next day, knowing me. And I'm going to do 30, well, in this case, 31 days of Reels. And I'm going to do one a day, which if you have done Reels yourself, you know that it can be quite challenging to actually do one a day, because you're coming up with content, you're putting in the time to edit it, and then you're also doing the video. So there's all sorts of things that go into it, which sound really hard, but I'm going to tell you how you can make it easy. So my goal was to do one a day for 30 days, and then we achieved that. We did one a day for all of August, and we continue to do that so far through now. We're through February and into March. And then sometimes we did 2 a day. I would not recommend that. I only recommend 1 a day, and you'll see why shortly. So you want to show up for yourself and commit to it. Like I mentioned, I'm committed to everyone else except for myself. And so I showed up for myself for once and committed to it. I wanted to see if I could do it. And it was sort of like, I don't know if you ever did this where, so I used to work for Coldwell Banker, and I think they had a goal of like either you get the first award at 5 million. This was very early on in my career, 5 million or 25 transactions. And so I had already hit the 5 million at that point. And then I told all my friends at Coldwell Banker that I was going to do 25 transactions too. And they're like, why would you do that? That sounds like so much work, and you already hit the 5 million for the award. You don't need to do 25. And I was like, I just want to see if I can do it, you know? So set a goal for yourself that you just want to see if you can do it. So I just wanted to see if I could do 30 days of Reels, and I did. So we continued. So what's great about social media is that we get to live in a time that we get to use social media as a tool. And I want to repeat that. We get to live in a time that we get to use social media as a tool. Gigi Hadid, brilliant. Because I don't know if you've seen the media lately, and I don't mean to be all doom and gloom, but I actually don't watch a lot of news, but of course this came across social media. Miss Universe, you know, she committed suicide, and then I was watching, I don't actually know what I was watching, but I think I was watching the news, the local news here, and a 12-year-old, there's this dad that was doing a walk across, I guess, the state. It was like a huge amount of miles, more than my brain could process because I'm adverse to exercise. But he was walking, and then it became news because we're a small town here, even though we have 1 million in our population on the island of Oahu, which is Honolulu County. And his daughter at 12 committed suicide. And I was like, what? How can somebody like 12 years old? And my niece is 12 years old. And so I'm like, okay, we've got to have a talk. So social media has changed the way we do things. It could be used for a great good, or it could be used for great evil. Now I challenge you all to use it for the good, right? The greater good. I feel like, you know, this is like prince and princess type of thing. So we want to use it for the greater good. And we also don't want to get caught up in it because I don't know how you never know what people are doing. And I've learned during COVID that you never know somebody's situation. Everyone literally is going through something. And so social media can be, I want to be clear, social media is a tool and not your life, right? So definitely set aside some time for yourself to take care of whatever you need to. Spend some time with your significant other, with your family, with your friends, your dog. I love dogs. So your cat even, or your birds. I have friends who have those as well, and a rabbit. So whatever you choose to, just always make time for the people that matter, because social media is not going to care for you. However, we can use it so that your clients and friends and family do learn to care about you. So I wanted to show you a couple of reels that I did, just in case you're familiar or not familiar. the first one is going to be strictly business, and the second one is more of like just for fun. And I always challenge people to have fun. I mean, that sounds ridiculous to challenge people to have fun, but you know what? Sometimes we forget about it. So I'm gonna let you watch the first reel, and then I'll tell you how it performed and why I feel it performed so well. So I mean, why did that do well? It had 113,000 views. I'm confused, right? That's probably like, why did these things do things like that? So it says something like, it said how to start looking for a home. And if you were to Google, there are actually a lot of websites and apps that help you do this. You were to Google, what do buyers look for on real estate? What do they Google? What's the Google search that people do? What's the top 5 Google searches for real estate? That's one of them, is where do I start looking to buy a home? I mean, I know that we don't know this because we've been doing this for a while, or a year, whatever, but even then you're like, people actually Google that? Because that was actually what I thought. But you know what, no judgment. It was like, you know what, I do that too. I think I literally just Googled how to do something, or where do I get started on this, right? So and then it says read caption. Now this was kind of early on in our journey of Reels, that we actually had huge success in our early journey. And then I said read caption. So I don't know how many of you like really look at Reels, but I'm venturing to guess many of you probably scroll, you scroll up, and you're like, oh, that's cool. Okay, I'm gonna pass that, right? So you want people to actually stop, watch your reel, and then read your caption, because once they start reading your caption, then it's still playing in the background. So it's still playing in the background, they're reading your caption, and on Instagram versus TikTok, you can write a whole novel on this thing. There is a limit, so it's not like you can write literally a novel, but you can write at least a chapter. So I usually write like things, very detailed instructions, and I put in like the 4 steps to how to start looking for a home. Contact your lender, interview your realtor, things like that. All the things that we do on a daily basis. So I did that, and it performed very well. So this next reel that I'm about to show you, you gotta have fun. I just loved this song. And it just so happened that my best friend from high school, she was having a really bad day. Now, I don't know if you have that friend who is like the best human on the planet, and then, but for some reason has the most dramatic life. I mean, I don't even have that much of a dramatic life, but it just seems like everything happens. And she's not one of those people who's like plays victim or anything like that. She's a very positive person, but it's just when she tells me her stories, I'm like, whoa, that's so crazy. So I just wanted to make this real for her, to let her know that I'm here. And I actually sent her the reel and told her it was there, and I made it just for her. So I'll let you watch the reel.
To wake up because the sun's in your eyes, and sometimes life kinda sucks, but you got this. And hey, you never know, there's a million different ways that this whole day could go. So I'm just popping in to say, I hope you have a good day.
So this reel had 133,000 views. I don't know if you felt any emotion coming out of this, but some people said it made them cry. Some people said, like on the comments, this was my most commented reel with 533 comments. So that was a lot for me. Maybe some of you have more, maybe some of you have less. And there's really no metric that says success, but for me, I felt that this was a very strong reel, because a lot of people were commenting saying, I helped them, this made their day, a lot of those things. And it was really great comments that were coming from people, and it helped me. They were sharing their stories, a lot of that. And so I think as a realtor, I don't know if you do this, but sometimes I might forget. I'm so busy with work. I forget about, people in my life that might need my love and support. And so, but I don't, because I know that, when you hear your friend is going through a tough time, you're probably likely to reach out to them. But what if you made them a reel and it performed this well? But the intention wasn't for it to perform that well. I just loved the song, and I felt that it would really help my friend. So one of the other things that I wanted to mention, this is more of a Toastmasters trick, is that you can see that I have the coffee mug in here. So I looked at a whole bunch of people's reels. So these two happen to be trending sounds at the time. I like to use trending sounds. You don't have to. I've seen other realtors not use trending sounds. There's no real, I think if people are going to be engaged with you and watch your reel, it doesn't necessarily matter. You have a higher chance to optimize when you use a trending sound. And how you can tell is at the bottom. I don't have it on here, but at the bottom, there's an arrow pointing like diagonally upward. I'm not sure how this shows on the screen, but diagonally upward. And then I have the coffee in there, so you know it's in the morning. And then I did this reel actually several times. So it's not like I just woke up one morning. And I did it in the morning because the sun is in a certain place and you can tell, feel like you can tell it's morning. So you want it to be like, look like the time of day that you're talking about. And then I have the coffee in the picture, but I had to hold it, you know, it's kind of awkward. So I'll show you. So I'm here and normally, I don't know, I would hold the cup of coffee probably like right about here. So you can see that would be out of the screen. But I held it like here so you could see it in the reel, and you'll get used to it with time. But I've gotten a lot of feedback where in my earlier reels, I totally, you can't see things in the photo. And I did a reel recently. I know Alyssa probably watched it, but that one performed really well on TikTok. It got about 100,000 views on TikTok, but I did something with my hands and I just call it spirit hands. You learn to make fun of yourself at some point. And I think the more you're willing to make fun of yourself and not take this too seriously, the better that things perform and the better that you feel inside. And I think that's what it's all about. So I wanted to give you something because a lot of you came here today to learn how can I start on Reels. Well, as a realtor, actually, I kind of forget. I've been doing this for 18 years and I'm like, how do you do open house these days, you know? Because during COVID, I decided to not do open houses just to keep everything safe. We had such huge rises in cases. I didn't want to be responsible for people catching COVID. So, you know, they say that in open house, you need your elevator pitch, right? 30 to 60 seconds and you know, you get them to trust you. But in the Instagram world or the Reels world, the real Reels world, because we're learning to be real with Reels, it's 3 seconds. So it's a significant drop from that 30 to 60 seconds. And then I'm like, you can barely get 3 words out in 3 seconds, right? So how do you capture their attention? Well, you have to get them, you're like getting them engaged with your story by giving it to them right at the beginning. So nobody wants to wait for you to kind of elaborate and tell a bright story about it. There's no real storytelling. It's like storytelling in a brief moment. So like I mentioned before, they can be anywhere from 7 to 15 seconds is most of what they are. I think they suggest that you do it at 7 seconds. It's a rumor that says that if you do a 7-second reel, exactly 7 seconds, that it performs better on Instagram. Now, I don't find that to be true necessarily in my own personal, plus what I watch on Instagram. And then you can do longer reels. You could do them at a minute. And I think they might have expanded to 3 minutes as well to follow what TikTok does. Now, I like to do 1 minute. If I'm talking, I like to do about a minute because there's no way I could get anything out in 15 seconds. And then you'll see there's a timer. There's a lot of optimizations that they have on Reels that you can just time yourself so it doesn't look like you're holding the phone and clicking it. You can just hold the phone and then or use a tripod and then click timer. It counts down 3 seconds or 10 seconds or whatever, and then you start your reel. So you'll never believe what happens when I mean, if a friend said, you'll never believe what happened when you're like, oh my gosh, what happened, right? And so that's what you got to think about is like, if my friend came to me and was super excited and was telling me, you'll never believe what happened to me, right? That's the kind of things that you want as your opening hook. So a very good friend of mine, she is a life coach. She was on a plane that crash landed in New York. She's from New York, from Brooklyn. And she said, you'll never believe what happened. I crash landed in New York. And that TikTok, and I feel like TikTok is sort of like Reels. So she had 750,000 views on TikTok. And I don't know how well it performed on Reels, but I know she had a ton of views on that as well. So she talked about the masks actually came down, you know, those yellow masks that I think they're mythical because I've never seen them. But, you know, she actually talked about it and how people on TikTok were telling her that she should take off her mask, because, you know, during COVID we wear masks, before she puts on the oxygen mask. I mean, logically that makes sense, but if we were all in that plane, I'm pretty sure that we would forget, right? We'd probably forget that we should take off our mask because we're wearing it in the plane for the whole plane ride. So she did that, and she also talked about how the it looked like it was from the 80s, like it was kind of deteriorating, it was discolored, all types of things. So good to know for the next time that I crash land as well. I hope that never happens to me. I think I'd freak out. So, but that drew people in because you'll never believe what happened when and then this is the number one hack for. How many of you are like always looking for the quickest way, the quickest solution to doing something, right? I mean, yeah, exactly. So I play board games. So one of my friends suggested that I go to YouTube, and on YouTube, I don't know if you know this, but they have like a 5-minute, I think her name is Game Girl or something like that. And I love her tutorials. She teaches you how to play the most complicated board game in 5 minutes. I was learning how to play Pandemic because, I mean, we're in a pandemic, you know, thought it'd be fun to play Pandemic. And so it's sort of like a hack, right? So I actually did a few of those, and they performed well. This is the number one hack for how to get your home accepted in multiple offer situations. This is the number one hack for buyers. This is the number one hack for listings or for sellers. This is the number one hack for staging your own home. This is the number one hack. Things that will bring in your potential buyers. You want to think to yourself, buyers or sellers? I don't know if more buyers or sellers are on this. I would have to let you know, I don't know if you noticed this too. The majority of my friend group, I'm 42 years old. So the majority of my friend group is around somewhere between 35 and 45. And that is also my audience on Instagram. Because I like to track things like I mentioned, like by a long shot, the age group that I appeal to is 35 to 45-year-olds. And so this is the number one hack for, it's something that appeals to me. So I guess it appeals to other people. So things I learned we have so many stories as realtors, don't we? I mean, we have crazy shirt balls worth of stuff, right? Things I learned as a realtor, I've just in so many multiple offer situations, and that's literally what I have in my brain. Things I learned as a buyer's agent in a multiple offer situation. Things I learned as an agent, a realtor during COVID. Things I learned as I tripped and fell on my way to my listing. You know, those are things I think people may want to know about. Things I learned when I first started real estate. You know, things I learned, these are ways to get you engaged with your potential audience, with your clients, with your potential buyers or sellers, with your friends, with your family, the people who refer to you. So there's so many, you know, people want to know, like, okay, yeah, you have those really amazing professional photographs of your listing that you post on Instagram, but tell me what it's really like. What did you learn? You know, people want to know, and you are the person to tell them. So then the three that I use the most, how to. I'm pretty basic as a human. I love vanilla. That's my favorite flavor. I do also like, I don't even know if you'll know this, but I also love lihing mui and strawberry shiso sorbet, like gelato, sorbetto. So I do have the local Hawaii flavors, but you know, pretty basic when it comes to things, because I feel like you need to keep things simple for people, and I love it when people keep things simple. So I'm like, how to sell your listing, how to stage your listing when you don't have a stager, how to how to start in real estate, how to do a presentation for people in Tucker, Georgia. It could be something like that. And then, or how did I do this, right? So I have a lot of how-tos. I actually just recently did, so just to give you kind of like a timeline, I started doing Reels in August of 2021. And then I just started doing TikTok in January of 2022, so this year. So I love to do social experiments. I love it. I think it's fun. I think it's exciting. I think we learn by doing, not by observing. I observed for 5 years before I took the leap into any of that. And so on TikTok, I put should you, so it's how to, should you, things like that. And I said, should you ask for repairs or credits in your home inspection? So, how to, do your home inspection once you get into escrow, how to open escrow, things that buyers are looking for. And you can always, like I mentioned, there are websites that you can find out what are the top most searched Google searches on Google. So I also talk a lot about 3 ways too. So 3 ways to sell your home in a buyer's market, right? Obviously it's like super easy, but we want to get highest and best. And so you want people to know that you are the go-to realtor for pretty much anything. I don't know how many people are doing Reels in your market, and that might be something interesting to take a look at. I have gotten a lot of feedback. I mentioned, it's sort of a small town, even with 1 million population. I bump into my friends or acquaintances all the time, and people I don't know that have seen my Reels. And a lot of people have mentioned that they really enjoy it because they're learning. They're learning so much about real estate. And these are people that are not realtors, because if they were realtors, I would know. But they are also potential business. One person who I actually didn't look at the card because I like to be present when I'm eating dinner with people. So I was happened to be with my Rotary Club for what we call Pauhana, which is happy hour. And this person came up to me and said, oh, I love your Reels. I'm going to use you when I buy real estate. And I was like, okay, the worst that every realtor wants to hear, except really, you're going to buy I'm just some random stranger that you've seen Reels from. So he had given me his card, and it said the restaurant's name on it. And it's a restaurant that I go to quite often. So like so random that he has the card. And so when I came home later, and I kept my word because he actually said bye to me as he was leaving as well. And I said, I will text you when I'm done. And so I did, and I looked at the card, and it was the owner of the restaurant, and it's a very well-known restaurant here. So you just never know who's watching your Reels. And it seems like I think all across the board is pretty much, the 30 to 50-year-olds in general. So 3 ways to all the things that you tell your clients. One tip that I did want to go, how many of you do like a drip campaign? Once you go into escrow, you have a drip campaign that says, prepare for your home inspection, prepare for this. Now that we've done the deposit, congratulations, you've gotten into escrow after millions of days have gone by. Have you do you do a drip campaign, or you may or may not, but I use a lot of the content from there in my Reels. And then if you don't, I would highly recommend that you Google things that, just Google, like how to buy a home. It seems like a lot of people are Googling that. Inman and NAR, we all receive emails from NAR, and we receive emails from Inman. They have great content, great content. And so you can use that content, make it your own, shorten it because sometimes it can be quite lengthy, and then put that and make it into a reel. Sounds piece of cake, right? We can all do this. So then my last one that I use a lot is what to do when. So what to do when you fall out of escrow, and your client was expecting that you're closing in 10 days, right? What to do when you have to interview for a listing. What to do when your client gets upset about the paint color that you chose. There's so many things that we go through as realtors. And this is why I continue to love to serve realtors, because I'm like, you're my people. You understand what I go through. I understand what you go through. You understand what I go through. And those are the only people that I can tell about my day. Because what's worse than your clients or your client is hearing you complain, I hate being a realtor. I mean, I don't hate being a realtor, but you're saying, my day was rough. This realtor did this, or this client did this, or whatever, right? I mean, you can't talk about realtors because of the NAR Code of Ethics, but you can't ever complain about your day unless it's to another realtor. And they're the ones who really, truly understand you because they go through it on a daily basis as well. Like, what to do when your appraisal comes in low, right? Everybody wants to know that right now. And that is actually something that people actually search. So, tip for the day. So here are some best practices that I do when I'm doing Reels. And I've interviewed a ton of people, so it isn't just like I'm like, okay, here's what I do. I actually have a few people that I love on Instagram, and I'll talk about them shortly. So you want to prepare your framework ahead of time. It's important that you do this, like probably the number one important thing that you do, and it will save you tons of time. Because I'm sure many of you are extremely busy with work in this crazy COVID times with a crazy real estate market. So you want to take advantage of this and prepare your framework. So one thing that we do is we have a Trello board. How many of you are familiar with Trello or Asana or some kind of administrative like task where you're putting a checklist together? That's basically what it is. It's an app that we use. So we use Trello, and I put in the hook, the body of the message that I want to convey for, I guess on Reels. And then I put what I want to put in the caption, and then we put in the closing. So we do all of those things ahead of time so that we can be prepared. And I actually have, you can see my virtual assistant, my lovely virtual assistant, Vanna White here. Vaughn is online. So I do the video, and I've delegated out editing the videos and putting the words in and posting the captions and posting it on Reels because, we all have our busy schedules. So, if your mom, friend, niece can do it, throw them a bone or something like that. I highly recommend you find the most organized person in your life and say, hey, would you mind doing this for me? So right now that's Vaughn. She is the most organized person in my life. And so she's been brilliant. I love her to pieces. So it will save you time and a lot of energy. So, and I wanted to also mention when you are doing the videos, I actually learned this through when I was district director in Toastmasters, is that I needed to be 10 times what I am. So I happen to be a pretty calm person in life. None of my friends would describe me that way, ironically. They say I have high energy and that's how I operate. I'm like, wow, I have such low energy. So I do my best to bring the energy, and no matter what I do, whether it's presenting to all of you or doing a reel, I bring the energy there. So for me, the best times to do a reel is my peak time. Have you ever read that book or heard of Matthew Walker? It's called Why We Sleep. So sleep is like the miracle drug. So I've been doing my best to get as much sleep as possible. It hasn't been working out so great, yet that is one of the best things that you can do for yourself. So what it has taught me though is because for my book club, I'm in a book club, and they all, I was actually co-facilitating this book club meeting, and we made them take a test. And so if you ever take one of those sleep chronotype tests, it'll tell you when your peak hours of work are. And so my peak hours happens to be in the afternoon. I was like, man, I always feel like that's when I want to sleep, take a nap, but that's my peak hours of work is in the afternoon. And I'm like, well, I guess like after like 3:30 p.m. I feel pretty solid. So I typically make my videos between 3:30 and around 6:30 p.m. I really love the lighting, so you want to pay close attention to the lighting. I'm sure we all have at this point a ring light. I have one, but you can see that the sun is actually shining on my face. It's ironic because I have the blinds down, but the sun is shining through. And so I'm on the Diamond Head side, and if you're familiar with Hawaii, that's on the east side of I'm facing east. So the sun will eventually go above me from where I'm at in my condo. And then there's really great lighting. I feel the lighting is best between 3:30 and 6, right before the sun goes down at dusk. And that might be the same for you. I'm not sure. And you want to find out what chronotype you are. So I happen to be a bear because I love to sleep and I like to wake up late. 8 a.m. was actually really early for me, but it's a normal time. If you told me to wake up at 6 a.m., I'd be like, ooh, I'm going to have to wake up at 5 and jump up and down to get ready to have excitement for today. So definitely find out what time works best for you. So you want to write captions with value builds. It builds relationships with your viewers and keeps them engaged. So when you're watching Reels, what's your experience? Feel free to put that in the chat. I'm going to venture to guess the ones that don't keep your attention, you're just scrolling past, or you're like, in my case, because I'm usually looking for content, if I've already used a song, I pass by it. I don't like to spend too much time on Reels because it gets so addicting. One time I was on Reels and I'm like, whoa, it felt like 5 minutes and it was an hour. I have to get going, So you want to make sure that you don't spend that much time on it. But I think you understand that your viewers are going to be doing the same thing. And as I mentioned before, you want to make sure to keep them engaged in what they're watching. So you need the number one best thing, and I'm sure you've heard this before, is to do engaging content, to create quality content. And I was thinking, do I create quality content? I don't know. I'm still learning, just like all of you. I just did the one on, you can watch it later, but it's basically, I show a home that is for sale in Hawaii for $100,000. And so for some reason, people found that extremely engaging, and they said, that's totally how the market is. Multiple offer situations, probably gonna go for 200,000. And I know all of you are thinking, there's something for 100,000 in Hawaii. There isn't, but just definitely take a look at that. So you want to make sure that you build a relationship with your viewers and keep them engaged, because the more engagement that you have, the better. So to give you an example of why engagement is so important, because you want to think of your future, because I don't want to assume, I'm pretty sure that when you're helping somebody buy a home, you're looking out for their future. You don't want them to be in a short sale situation down the road. You want them to have equity, right? I mean, that's what we all hope for our clients. So in order to do that, we need to get them the lowest price possible. And now I know in this market, it's like completely impossible. However, there's always a way, right? And then you always want to forewarn them, okay, it's going to go down before it goes up, right? So you want to make sure to build for their future. And in the same way, you want to do this for yourself. You want to build your future. So I was going to a restaurant. It's not a fancy restaurant by any means. It is expensive though. It's somewhere between $20 to $30 for an entree. And I had to go on their website. I was like, who does this? Why do you have to go on the website to make the reservation? Couldn't they just use OpenTable or something like that? Resi. So I went on their website, and as I was scrolling, I went too far. And on the bottom of, so the restaurant is called Hautri Lanai, and they're at the Kaimana Hotel. So if you're familiar with Hawaii, or Oahu and Waikiki, it's not in Waikiki, it's all the way at the other end. Well, it's at the end, the Diamond Head end. You literally see Diamond Head when you're walking to the restaurant. And it's on the water. It's got this beautiful tree. It's a hau tree. I actually don't know what that would be in American language. Like, it's a Hawaiian name for the tree. And so we call it a hau tree. It's a beautiful, it's just beautiful. And then you can see the beach and the water and the ocean. It's so close, you can touch it, right? You literally can just jump over the wall. It's a small wall and you're on the beach. So I love this restaurant, and I was making it for my friends who are visiting. So I went online and I looked for it. And then at the bottom, because I scrolled too far, it said, if you're an influencer, sign up for free stays in Hawaii. Who wants a free stay in Hawaii, right? We'll build up your engagement, because I believe your engagement is gold. That your engagement rate is gold. And people are going to ask for this. So whether, and if you ever have speaking aspirations, I don't know what your personal goals are, but we have that life by design, right? So create your life by design. I want a free stay in Hawaii. How am I going to do that? I'm going to build my engagement rate up. And so engagement rate is different based on the amount of followers you have. So I don't know how many followers everyone has, but I venture to guess one or all of you might be in one of these categories. So it's at 1,000 followers, or under 1,000 followers, your engagement rate has to be at least 8%, right, to be considered healthy, and that people are actually looking at what you're posting. And you're asking me, how do I even find this? Well, I'm not sure what, and maybe this goes into the question and answer, and we can go deeper into this. Whatever profile that you decide, or I don't know how to explain it, but I have a creator profile. So I like to create, and there's a business profile. Some realtors have that as well. And on either of those, you can take a look at the back end, and there's a button called Insights. And so on that, you can actually see things, or probably not your engagement rate. However, you can actually go on to, we use an app called Ninjalytics, and it will tell, I put my name in. You can put other people's Instagram handles in there as well to see what engagement rate they are. I would highly recommend that if there's somebody that you admire on Instagram, that you look at their engagement rate. The most likely it's high. So if it's under 1,000 followers, I think 8% is it. And then if you're, or it might be under 5,000, and over 5,000, it might be 4%, and over 10,000, it's something like 1%. So wherever you're at, there's something for everyone. It really doesn't matter how many followers you have. It just matters your engagement rate. And then you can get a free stay at the Hautri Lanai, which is sort of like a boutique hotel. It's been there, it's iconic. A lot of people love to go there for dinner or lunch, or in my case, I grew up going there for brunch with my family. And so it's got really great memories. And I would highly recommend that should you come to Hawaii and come to visit me. I love to meet realtors when they come into town, especially since I have been traveling during COVID, and showing them around. I can be your tour guide. That's what I want to be in my next life, is a tour guide. So I can be your tour guide. And the next best practice is follow people in your field that inspire you and get inspiration from them. I may or may not be your cup of tea, but there will guaranteed be someone that you admire, that you're possibly already watching and you're like, I love this person's posts. So, definitely get in contact with them. So what happened during all of this, getting involved in Reels and all of that, I found a bunch of realtors that I love. Now, some of them I actually followed right around when COVID first started, before I even started doing Reels. I love Michelle Jean Kim Holmes, she's actually huge on TikTok. She has 250,000 followers. She has 47,000 followers on Instagram. And she has a YouTube channel that I think has 25,000 subscribers. So I think it's something, if you want to follow her as well, she's a Keller Williams agent. I didn't know that at the time. I just love her posts. One thing that I love about her is that she is herself, right? I know we hear that all the time, be you, be yourself. Everyone else is taken. But literally that's what they ask you to do on Instagram and Reels, because when you are passionate about something, it shines through. So she just happens to be passionate about BTS. How many of you know BTS? No one? Well, I'm sure you do know them or have heard their songs. They're huge now in the US. Oh, good. And thank you, Hank. I'm glad one person answered. I was like, I don't know, because I love BTS. It's a K-pop band, and they're hugely popular amongst pretty much everyone these days. They've been on the American music scene, I think, for maybe a couple years now. But they were really huge, and a lot of America has been listening to them for a while. So she's in California. Yeah, so she's in Cali. Oh yeah, and feel free to ask questions. So I was looking at what Alyssa was saying. So feel free to ask questions along the way. I'm happy to answer them too, and put them in the chat or save them. I don't mind being interrupted. I just told my clients, interrupt me throughout my presentation. So definitely follow people in your field that inspire you. So for me, I typically do Michelle Jean Kim. I also love Hey, it's Stephanie Mainville. And one of my good friends is Amy Leong from Vancouver. So Stephanie's in Arizona, Michelle is in California. So they're in different markets, and I learned from them as well. And feel free, like on Reels, to take somebody's, what they're doing and do the exact same thing. I do it. I don't do it every single time, but I do it. And you never know how it's going to perform for you versus them. And then the final thing on here is, let's see. Remember to be patient to grow. Use Instagram as a normal user would, and don't act spammy. So what we learned is that we were acting spammy, and it has locked me out from my Instagram account for a week. You never want to get locked out from Instagram. It's also, they have this thing called shadow ban, where if you seem like you're not a real person, then they kind of ban you from, they don't put your posts as much in the For You, the Explore page on Instagram Reels. So you want to be patient as you grow. So I'm going to show you some of my stats, and then we'll definitely get into questions. I think we're ready for them pretty soon. So my 30 days Reel challenge, you can see that how everything performed. I didn't really do anything in July. In August, I just started doing them, and I was just, for 30 days, and didn't really happen. And then in September, I thought that was huge growth. It was like around 30,000 views. And then in October, I had huge growth at around 330,000 views. So definitely be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself, and see how it goes. And then don't get discouraged along the way. It is best to learn as we go, not to go as we have learned. So the first thing you need to know is that Instagram, it's not 100% like that everything's going to perform well. It's constantly changing the algorithm. I love to follow a lot of social media people and learn coaches, and then they tell you all the secrets of Instagram, so you don't have to buy into anything unless you want to. We pay for Insta Club Hub because we find them very useful, and we use a lot of the things that they teach. So from August, you can see I grew astronomically. In October, I still did pretty well in November, and then because we were locked out a couple of times, we started going down. So don't get locked out is the moral of that story. And then most importantly, like I mentioned before, you want to be yourself. I know that sounds like, oh my gosh, this is another person talking about be you. No, Instagram Reels was specifically designed for you to be you, to have the real you shine through. So I wanted to end on that. And actually, I have, I've been listening to Becoming Michelle Obama. I don't know if any of you have read that. It is definitely one of my favorite books at this point. She, actually, maybe I don't have, she says, for me, becoming isn't about arriving somewhere or achieving a certain aim. I see it instead as forward motion, a means of evolving, a way to reach continuously toward a better self. The journey doesn't end. In fact, I'd venture to guess it never ends. And I encourage you I encourage you to be inspired to continue your journey and what that looks like. And I'd love to hear about your journey as well. So with that, I'd like to end a little bit. We do have a free thing for you that we'll send to everyone. And Vaughn is going to put the link in the chat so that you can, it's a how to do Reels tutorial, a booklet, and then a quick start guide. So that's what I wanted to give you all. And I'd love to stay connected if you're into that. Any questions? I'd love to hear from all of you. Feel free to unmute and ask away.
She's got quick questions.
Somebody has a question? Oh yeah, thanks.
Corinne, could you give me your TikTok again, please? Or
sure. Actually, I'll have Vaughn put it on the screen.
Okay.
So it's Oahu Realtor. Believe it or not, it wasn't taken when I got it. Neither was Hawaii Realtor. Why didn't I take that, right? But I love to be the Oahu Realtor. And then my Quran Instagram is my Instagram account. Also, Hank, just to let you know, the name of the sleep book is Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. I have a bunch of books. If anyone wants my book list, I can also send that to you. I'm a huge reader by audiobook. I aspire to actually read the books, but it never happens.
Corinne, I have a question. It's Elisa.
Sure.
Have you been able to get a lot of conversion through your Reels for sales, or do you see it as just branding?
So I love to do, I always do, I call it 8 streams of where I get my business from. And so social media is one of them. And now I've separated Instagram from Facebook. And just to give you an idea, I mentioned social experiments. I got a lot of business from Facebook. I mean, I am a Facebook machine when it comes to getting business. So I thought I'd actually go into Instagram and start doing that. So I started doing posts and all of that. I didn't really, from my posts and my stories, ever really get business. A lot of people do know me from my Instagram, but from Reels specifically, and I noticed an uptick in that. I have gotten a lot of really solid leads. I haven't converted yet because it's only been like a few months, and I think with anything it takes time. But I was very close to getting one. They changed their mind on selling, but ironically, that's why I say you don't know if it's a buyer or seller online. We also run ads. So I don't think that's necessarily how we got these leads. I think we weren't actually running leads when I got them. But it was for a listing out in Hawaii Kai in East Honolulu, kind of near Hanauma Bay, if you know where that is. It's a famous tourist site, or Coco Head, where people like to hike. It's famous. And so in that area, there was a guy who wanted me to list his home. But they changed their mind mostly and it was a real legit lead, because I think that's the house his kids grew up in. I'm going to venture to guess they're eventually going to sell, and they'll use me because I've already built a relationship with them offline, right? I have their phone number, I have their email address, so I'm going to keep in touch with them. And I think everything is about nurturing these leads. I think more than anything, and it wasn't the intention, I think it's the realtor connections that I have. So a lot of them have been actually referring me business, and those things I have closed, or I'm in the process of closing. I think actually I did close something that was referred to me from a realtor, and they found me through Instagram. So, I would highly recommend you get connected with realtors. I love to connect with realtors in my market, along with people that are not in my market. So I always think, this is probably really not a great way of thinking, but I'm like, you never know who's going to get out of the business too, right? But in addition to that, they're the people who are going to really push for my clients to get accepted, right? So I'm always networking. You don't know me personally, and maybe we'll get to know each other very well. A lot of my friends here always come to me for networking advice. I'm the networking education person for my BNI chapter, and I've been that for 3 years. So I love talking about networking, and I'm not one of those people who just hands out their card. I build a relationship with someone, and I do it one by one. So I think that's really what Instagram is. It's you're basically handing out your card, but it's better than that because it's more like a video card, right? You're handing out your video card. People are starting to like you and get engaged and seeing your reels tremendously. A lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for your next reel to come out, or I've just caught up on your reels. I'm like, you just caught up on my reels, I do one a day, so I think that's what it is. And then from there, you've got yourself in the door, and you're more than a warm call at this point. And then they're like, when they're thinking of real estate, they're thinking, I'm going to refer to Quran, or they're going to think, when I'm thinking of Hawaii real estate, I'm going to think of Quran. So I actually get a lot of people referring to me for other islands, and I'm like, I'll take that. When you're thinking of Hawaii, think of Quran, right? And so when you think of Tucker, think of, and fill in the blank.
One more question. When you said that you post business and personal, how many times a week do you post personal? How many times a week do you post about real estate?
Okay, so I just did a reel that I was making fun of myself because literally all I talk about is real estate on Reels. I show my personal life on stories. And then on Instagram, I pretty much just post my reels to my feed. It performs better. So that's another tip, is that it performs better when you post it on your feed, because all your friends will see it and it starts to get engagement. So I used to post 10% of business and 90% personal. And then a friend of mine who was she's very knowledgeable in social media, she had said to me, you need to post more about work. And this is specifically for Instagram. She's like, you don't post enough. Like, how will we know that you're a realtor, right? And so if you're you can look at your screen, I'm totally fine with that, but go to Instagram and look, you're gonna see that there are 9 squares that pop up on your phone. So you want them to be a variety of different things. Now, I actually do have a formula for that. We have not been doing our formula because we've been focusing on reels. So what you focus on expands, right? So I'm hopeful that it'll expand. And then I just did some photos so that we can have more personal, more quotes, with my picture on it. So you can go ahead, and I would venture to guess, I would say that in my experience, if you do 50-50, it's great, but there should be at least 3 posts in those 9 squares that are about real estate. So you can do up to 50%. You don't want it to be always about your listing. Like, if it's about your listing, make it a reel and say, hey, this is what I'm doing here. I'm waiting for the next buyer to come in, something like that, versus like, here's my listing. It's listed for this price, right? I see that a lot, and then I look at people's engagement who do that, and their engagement is very low because people aren't going to be relating to your listing. They're going to be relating to you. And so my most engaged posts are personal posts. So that's why you want to get the people to come in. And my personal posts with my husband, even if it's work, maybe he's a real estate appraiser, those get like 5 times the amount of likes than anything that I post. So you may want to, some people, not that you should do this. I had a friend and mentor. He would always send out those postcards to his sphere, and they would have a picture of his kid, right? And I know people use their dogs. So, I'm not opposed to that. I attempt to get my husband to be in these because they get more engagement, and he's like, no, I'm not into that. I'm like, okay. So definitely, at least 3 squares, because on that first screen, they need to see that you do real estate.
Right.
Does anybody else have any more questions to put in the chat? Anybody have any questions in the room?
I do. Did she mention something about prepare your framework ahead of time?
Mhm.
Did she mean like a timeline or how many?
Can you elaborate on what you meant about preparing your framework?
Sure. I do. So I do it ahead of time. That actually takes the most work. So you should do it like in your downtime when you're waiting for people to come into your listing, or you're waiting for people. I tend to use those times either to create video or to put the content together. So I don't exactly have a timeline, but you should. So I had heard something that you should schedule think time, and so I would say that you should schedule real time, right? You should schedule a time that you're going to do your videos. That's a separate time. And you should also schedule a time that you put together your content, because you'll see that when you're, I don't know, I think a lot of people are like this, where if you're in the mechanics of doing it, you're going to keep on doing it and you get on a roll, right? And then you give yourself a certain amount of time. I would say give yourself an hour to do videos and maybe batch like 10 reels. Maybe you finish early, maybe you continue with more, and then that's your video content. And then when you're doing your back end of the framework, you set aside another hour of time. So we all do time blocking. I believe that I really believe in time blocking. So we time block the videos, and then we also time block the content creation. And then you're also going to need to have time for editing. So I would say that takes the most time. I don't feel that, no offense, but I don't feel realtors are the best at administrative tasks and necessarily editing. So definitely delegate that out, so then that's an hour or 2 hours off your list per week, because somebody else can edit it for you. Now, sometimes I edit it because like Von's not with me on the weekends, so I'll edit it. It really only takes me maybe about 10 minutes, but if it's a more complicated post, it can take me up to an hour. So just to give you like real time numbers on that. And it really depends on how quick and fast you are and efficient.
Awesome.
Oh yeah.
Great.
And then I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna share our Trello board, and then we can show you what our framework looks like. I think that might be helpful, right, Amon?
Question.
Sure.
Sorry. Oh. Go ahead. Can I ask?
Yes.
Did you say you can find how to make the reels on YouTube, or did you have some like a thing for us? I thought I.
So I have a thing
mixed
for
the
you.
two up.
I have a thing for you. I mean, I'm sure you can Google it because
Okay.
everything's Googleable. If you go into the chat box, Vaughn put a link, and then it's just going to ask you for your name and email address, and then we're going to send you the links to go and view the how-to guide, the step-by-step tutorial on your phone on how to create one, and then the quick start guide. Because I was like, wow, we need a quick start guide, because I like to only read one page. So it's something for everyone. If you really want to get in there and want the longer version, it's there for you. And if you want the shorter version, it's also there. And then I learned visually, so the step-by-step tutorial is like the best for me.
Corinne, for those of us that are in person, can you send it? Can you email it to me so that I can also get it to the other people that were in person?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, or you can send out the link too in the chat. But yeah, I can also send it to you once we get there. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then, so this is our Trello board. So you can see 5 mistakes first-time homebuyers make. I like to keep everything positive, but it's just, whatever your personality is. If you're sarcastic, you might want to be a little bit more sarcastic. So here's a description of what's the opening line, what's the content of the video, what's the closing line, and then the description that's in the caption. So that's basically what we do for every reel. Yeah. I don't know if anyone has any more questions.
Anything else in the chat? Thank you so much for taking the time to give us all of this valuable information that we can use. If you will put your contact information again real quick on the screen, we
Yeah, I can do
make
that.
sure that everybody has that info.
Yeah, I think Vaughn's going to be putting that on the screen with my content info.
Fantastic.
Contact. Yeah.
And if you'll also, Corinne has a survey that she wants to share. So if you'll give her some feedback from her QR code of how she did.
Sounds great. Yeah, so definitely feel free to keep in touch. I'll take a look at who's following me, and I like to follow realtors back. So when I see that you're on, I'll follow you back. Yeah, let me know if you have anything, and if you come up with questions down the road, feel free to email me, contact me through any of these methods of contact, and then I'd love to keep in touch. So if you do have anyone looking for Hawaii real estate, feel free to get them in touch with me. If it's another island, I'll put you in touch with the other realtor. And thank you so much. I mean, thank you so much for staying on and listening to what I had to present about Reels. And I'm looking forward to building an amazing friendship and relationship with all of you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
It's so great meeting all of you. Have a great rest of your day. I'm excited.